Get the latest Impact episodes right now in your inbox each week. Subscribe by entering your email at impactpodcast.com to make sure you never miss an interview. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com. This episode of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Closed Loop Partners. Closed Loop Partners is a leading circular economy investor in the United States with an extensive network of Fortune 500 corporate investors, family offices, institutional investors, industry experts, and impact partners. Closed Loop's platform spans the arc of capital from venture capital to private equity, bridging gaps and fostering synergies to scale the circular economy. To find Closed Loop Partners, please go to www.closedlooppartners.com. Welcome to another edition of the Impact Podcast. We're now in 2023, and we're so excited to have with us today Kristin D. Simone. She's the Senior Manager of Mission at Thrive Market. Welcome, Kristen, to 2023 and the Impact Podcast.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me, John. Super excited to be here. Very grateful.
Healthy and happy New Year, especially with Thrive Market now available to so many people around the United States.
Absolutely.
Hey, Kristen, before we get talking about the important mission that you're on, and Thrive Market is on, can we talk a little bit about your background so people can learn a little bit about where you grew up, how you even got here?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty wild ride. I've had a really interesting career journey, like a lot of twists and turns. But essentially, I grew up in LA, in the Valley specifically, born and raised here, never really went too far, not even for college. I'm a SoCal girl, like through and through.
Good.
So yeah, born and raised here. My background was, funny enough, in art. I was an art major in college, and I also played collegiate basketball. So my two kind of things were art and basketball. Never even was thinking about sustainability. I don't even think that was a term when I was in college. Had I known, maybe I would have kind of changed direction earlier. But after that, I ended up coaching basketball for 12 years and teaching at the collegiate level. And what kind of took me out of that, I had a feeling that I did not want to do that the rest of my life, but I didn't really know, what direction to head in. It took 2 major back surgeries to kind of take me out of that world.
Wow.
I was on disability for a year, just kind of feeling lost and like really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to stay in the health and wellness space, and this new company, Thrive Market, started, and I literally saw an ad for a member services job, applied, got it, and kind of worked my way up through that role for a couple of years, and was eventually offered the mission manager role, which I've been doing for 4 years. And, I was kind of slightly nudged into the role, I should say, because, I didn't have any experience in sustainability. I was super passionate about what we were doing at Thrive and about our mission, and always wanted to go to the volunteer events. And somebody saw something in me and luckily kind of gave me that little shove that I needed and said, you got this. And here I am 4 years later.
That's incredible.
Managing mission.
But Kristin, part of why your story is so important, we have listeners and viewers around the world that want to be the next Kristin D. Simone. And it's so important to understand that life is not one straight path. Because people who think it's, you go to college, you go to a certain high school, you go to a certain college, and then you go get your job, and then that's it. And it's just easy peasy, lemon squeezy like that. That's just not how life really is. So the zigs and zags. Where did you go to college, by the way?
UC Riverside.
And is that where you played?
That's where I played. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I went and got my master's at Azusa Pacific in education. And then, actually I did go back to school recently. I just finished my sustainability certificate at UCLA.
So
I saw that you had Nurit Katz on your podcast. She's a freaking rock star. Love her. She was one of my stars. But I did go back to school eventually for a little bit. And that's like the perfect program for somebody that's kind of working a full-time gig and wants to get some formal education.
Where'd you coach?
I coached all over, mostly junior colleges in Southern California, and then one Division III school. So
got it. UC Riverside. I know UC Riverside only because I was very, very close with the late Jerry Tarkanian, who started his career at UC Riverside.
Yep.
So there's a lot of great stories that came out of there that I heard from him over the years, and he was always very grateful for that school for giving him his first chance. So
yeah, a lot of, I learned a lot of great life lessons, both being an athlete and a coach, and I've been able to apply them throughout my career. So grateful to have that background as well.
So here we are now. You're the mission manager, but when you started at Thrive, as you said, someone saw greatness on you in terms of their mission and you. What role did you start and how did that evolution go at Thrive?
So I started in our member services team, but always kind of wanted to get my hands on anything related to our social mission, or our Thrive Gives program is our charitable arm. And then kind of just put my head down, worked really hard, and just kind of left it up to the universe to land me where I was meant to be. So worked my way up through that department, and then took on the mission manager role. And then a year ago was promoted to senior manager, and I've been doing that for about a year. But yeah, I've been in this specific role for about 4 years now.
Got it. And for our listeners and viewers who are not familiar with Thrive Market themselves yet, and hopefully you do become familiar with them one day, you can find Thrive Market, and you can also find Kristen and her great colleagues at www.thrivemarket.com. Talk a little bit about Thrive Market. Tee it up on a macro basis. What is Thrive Market, and what do you specifically do, and what role do you play in services do you perform?
Yeah, so Thrive's been around since 2014. So basically, we're a membership-based e-commerce platform for healthy and sustainable products delivered directly to your door. So think like a Costco or a Sam's Club meets Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's. So for $60 a year, our members get access to a highly curated assortment of over 500,000 healthy products. And within that, there's about 700 of our own innovative Thrive Market own brand products. And these are all at member-only prices. But with that, every paid membership, we actually are able to offer a free membership to a low-income family or a teacher, student, veteran, first responder. So essentially, the goal is to democratize access to healthy products.
And how far have we come in the 8 years that Thrive has existed? Obviously, there's Whole Foods and all sorts of other great brands across America, but Thrive is this very unique service. How many communities do you serve across the whole United States?
We anywhere in the United States we deliver, outside of Alaska and Hawaii, and we have just over 1.2 million members now that we've
That's incredible.
Acquired. So yeah, continuing to grow, lots of room for growth, but really, really proud to see how far we've made it in 8 years.
So if you're in the continental United States, you can become a Thrive member right now.
Exactly.
That's awesome. But talk about what you just said about people in need. You facilitate the donated checkout program. What does that really mean, and why is that so important to Thrive's mission and also really heart of caring?
Yeah, so zooming out on mission, so we see mission as being both access, democratizing access to healthy products, healthy food, but also environmental responsibility. On the access side, our members are able to make an impact just by purchasing an annual membership. With that, we're able to donate one to somebody that needs it. But they can also go a step further and donate a portion of their savings from their order at checkout. And then we've created basically we call the Food Equality Fund. And we set a goal to raise $10 million by 2025. As of the end of last year, we just hit $9.4 million. So a good chunk of that is our members' donations at checkout. They're incredibly generous. They always have been. And, they're essentially fueling the social impact work that we're doing. So, we could not do it without them.
That's incredible. And Thrive's offices now or its corporate headquarters is in LA, Los Angeles, or somewhere else?
We are in LA. Yep.
Yeah. And, how did the pandemic affect two things: how you work at Thrive in terms of at home versus in office, and how did it affect your membership? I would assume, just as a layman and an outsider, that your membership accelerated during the pandemic.
I mean, we were one of those lucky businesses that we were able to be a resource for people that literally couldn't leave their home. And,
right.
We were, I'm so proud of the way that we were able to kind of really embody our mission and deliver access to healthy products. And, there was obviously a huge spike in people just being very aware of their health and their safety. So just really excited that we had the opportunity to kind of be that resource for them. Also wanted to mention, you spoke of the Donate at Checkout campaign.
Yeah.
As soon as COVID hit, we decided to turn on a COVID-19 fund campaign. And within a few months, we raised over $1.7 million to give stipends to families in need so they could access healthy groceries for free. So,
and how do you choose, and then how are you balancing the interests of families in need, and which is, of course, a whole different algorithm. What's the algorithm look like at Thrive Market?
I mean, 100% of those donations went to members, but we basically just put some messaging out on social media and had people send in their stories,
Got it.
how they were impacted, and that's kind of how we decided to kind of disperse those funds.
Got it.
And some of those stories were incredibly, just painful to read, and some sent pictures, and it was just, broke my heart. And the way that our community came together and was so willing to support and do it quickly, that just makes me so proud of the way that our community stepped up and was able to support.
How many employees are part of that now are part of Thrive in Los Angeles?
In LA, I think we're around 150, 125.
And nationally, are there more employees nationally?
Yeah, we have 3 fulfillment centers across the U.S. So I think we're around the 800 mark total employees. And, I got to say, COVID-19, the real heroes here were our FC employees, because they were essential to us getting these groceries to families that needed it. And, they are the heroes.
And so pre-COVID-19, everyone worked in an office. Post-COVID-19, it's a hybrid situation, or how's it work now?
We did try the hybrid for a little bit, but we did establish that we're now going to be a remote first company. And as of right now, it's working for us. So we downsized our office during COVID, and I believe we're going to be downsizing again. But yes, definitely remote first. And yeah, I think we're just realizing how much more efficient folks can be with no distractions. But yeah, that's kind of how we've navigated.
When you look at the velocity of new members pre-COVID and then during COVID, and now, God willing, we're in the post-COVID moment, and we stay there. Talk about the velocity. Was it the highest velocity during COVID, but it's still higher today than it was pre-COVID? Or how does that shape up for such an important and vital brand like yours?
Yeah, so we saw a huge spike in membership and revenue during COVID, and there's been some drop off, but nothing significant. It's definitely normalized our growth, but we're still seeing people stay on board that did join during the crisis.
Talk about a little bit about being a mission manager. I've had such a lucky run over the last 15 years interviewing chief sustainability officers or chief impact officers, and now they're called so many different things, chief diversity officers or ESG officers. Where does mission manager fall at Thrive? Because everyone can can on a macro basis define ESG, sustainability somewhat differently. How does that fall out at Thrive?
So mission, again, is to make healthy and sustainable living easy, accessible, affordable for everyone. So I basically manage, on the access side, I manage our Thrive Gives program. So making sure we're getting those memberships out to folks that need it. And then managing our Donate at Checkout campaign, which a portion of those funds go to support those Thrive Gives member shopping budgets. Another portion goes to any nonprofit that is mission aligned that we partner with. So I manage that relationship as well. And then on the I also do all of our charitable giving, all of our community engagement, opportunities for volunteer work for our Thrivers. We call our employees Thrivers.
That's great.
And then last but not least, managing our environmental sustainability roadmap. So it's a lot of work, but at the same time, super rewarding.
Let's talk about that. When for you, environmental sustainability, obviously you just took the certification program at UCLA. What does it mean for Thrive Market on the environmental side? And do you do an impact report every year or an environmental report every year, or how does that work?
Great question. So we've been doing basically a mission impact report for the last 3 years. So this will be our fourth one coming up, focused on both social and environmental impact. And I think, both have been ingrained in our DNA since the beginning, both social and environmental. I think we really leaned into our social mission and our social impact work when we first launched, and didn't really talk about our environmental responsibility work. But we've been doing it since the beginning. We've been offsetting a portion of our carbon emissions since 2014.
Wow.
We've had zero waste practices in place since 2015. Doing all this work, but not talking about it until we got our head of marketing in a few years ago. She was like, why aren't we talking about this stuff? So now we definitely prioritize the environmental as well as the social impact.
Truth be known also, obviously, as you say, it's a DNA thing at Thrive Market to be on the right side of the environment and social issues and really be doing the right thing on a regular basis, even when people aren't looking. But to your marketing person's credit, the truth of the matter is the world has just woken up in the last 2 or 3 years
100%
to caring about sustainability, circular economy, ESG, especially in America, is my experience, at least, Kristen, in terms of, Europe was generations ahead of us, but because they're smaller. Because you go to UK or France or any other country in the UK, in Europe, and they're small, so they don't have the benefit of the American way of, hey, we're the land of the wide and the free, and we have more trash. Let's just dig another landfill, and we'll keep living in the linear economy, even if they're living in the circular economy. So the validation institutionally from BlackRock and all the biggest financial institutions in the world saying, we're not going to invest in any more companies, and you're not going to be a portfolio company unless you're on the right side of this, I think was sort of a bellwether moment 18 or 20 months ago to, that this has now come to America. It's not okay that we're acting one way and the rest of the world's trying to really move us in a different direction. So good for you.
Absolutely. And we're the ones that are kind of a big piece of this mess that we're in. So it's
that's right.
Thank goodness people are waking up, because it's time, and we are late to the game, but at least we're waking up.
Yeah, but at least there's great companies like yours and people like you and your colleagues that we're doing this on a regular basis anyway. So just messaging it is the easy and fun part compared to actually doing the hard work. You guys were doing the hard work already. So hats off to you. Hats off to Thrive Market. And for those who just joined us or just tuned in, we've got Kristin Simone here. She's the mission manager at Thrive Market. You can find Thrive Market and you can join Thrive Market and their great service at www.thrivemarket.com. The environmental responsibility, zero waste, carbon emissions. What I've learned over the years through the other great leaders I've had a chance to interview is that sustainability doesn't have a finish line. It's a journey. And so explain where you are now, where Thrive Market is now, Kristen, on the journey, and what's like in front of you that you're excited about to go tackle in 2023 and beyond.
Love that question, and definitely agree that this is a journey, and there's still just so much more to learn and do. But I'm really proud of the fact that we have formally put together what our vision looks like and the strategy to reach that. So in 2020, we actually onboarded a couple industry-leading sustainability consultants to kind of help us map out this 5-year sustainability roadmap. So the vision is to build the world's first climate-positive grocery store. I think, climate positive doesn't have a formal single definition, but for us, we based it on 3 key areas that we wanted to focus on. And all 3 have short-term, bold, but achievable goals that we've set. And those areas are carbon, waste, and plastic. So for carbon, the goal is to go beyond neutral, and we're actually committing to be carbon negative by 2025. So that's a big one.
That's huge.
Yeah. On waste, we wanted to make our zero waste practices that we've been doing forever official with a zero waste certification in 2022. We are in 2023, so I'm happy to report that as of November of last year, we got our 3rd fulfillment center certified for zero waste. So we have ticked off that goal. Really proud for the team for achieving that. But yeah, still continue to make some, work is never done on the waste side. So we've reached that goal. So now it's time to set a new one. But that's it for waste. And then on the plastic side, we're actually aiming to achieve plastic neutral certification in 2023. So we'll be kind of focused on that this year. Some other exciting things will be, we're up for B Corp recertification this year. So that's going to be a huge focus for myself and a big piece of our team. And then, just continue to make progress on those five-year goals.
So let's go back to the three issues that you raised. What's the scorecard that you use and how do you score those things? Because there's lots of great consultants out there. And there's the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and these other certifying bodies here in the United States on terms of zero waste and zero plastic. How do you go about it? And what have you found works? And what have you found maybe doesn't work?
Yeah, so for zero waste, the organization that we're working with is it's a true certification. It's administered by GBCI, which is Green Building Certificates. So what's cool about them is they focus on like upstream efforts, including, redesign, reduce, reuse. It's not limited to just downstream efforts. So a minimum requirement of that program is to have 12 months average of 90% or more diverted from landfill. That's just a minimum requirement. They take a look at everything you're doing, including all of the upstream efforts. So just focusing on trying to get the least amount of waste in the facility so we don't have to deal with how we're going to get rid of it. So really requires some innovation and thoughtful kind of strategy around how we're ordering products, all of that stuff, everything upstream.
That's fascinating. So now, as you say, we live now when you're doing that kind of reporting and scorekeeping and scorecarding, it's multidimensional. You've got to look upstream and downstream. So how do you message that to your upstreams and your downstreams to sort of, some of them are not, how do we say this, as situated from a DNA perspective and sustainability as well as you are, how do you bring them along into this grander vision to make the world a better place?
Yeah, so I think, just being really transparent about what our goals are and how, we feel that they're going to help us help contribute to reaching those goals, and just making it feel really inclusive, but also just, being kind of very firm about, we have an environmental purchasing policy, and if there's vendors that kind of don't agree with that policy, there's separate conversations that happen, but we haven't really seen a ton of pushback on after we kind of message what our goals are and how these vendors and other companies can help us achieve them.
So on the plastic side, who do you use on the plastic side, or what do you do to get to reduce your plastic and to get your vendors and your upstream and your downstream also thinking the way you're thinking?
Great question. So when it comes to our products, our merchandising team, they're the experts in that space. So they have a kind of a map that they follow on how they determine which kind of packaging we're going to go with for certain products. It's been easier in the non-food space to avoid plastic. So we're making a lot of progress there. Still a lot of work to be done, but we're trying to minimize packaging as much as possible. If we've done that, we're looking at, compostable material, PCR, anything we can do to avoid virgin plastic. And then additionally, we're partnered with a company called How to Recycle that literally labels each one of our private label products, giving the consumer information of how exactly they should be disposing of that product and just making that really clear. So providing some end-of-life options for those items that kind of may be confusing to the consumer, which I think is pretty common.
That's really cool, though. That's really. And then, what month of the year do you publish your progress?
Typically around Earth Month. We'll likely do that end of April. The one thing that we're pursuing this year that we haven't previously is the climate neutral certification. So that could take through the beginning of April. So we're looking at a late April kind of release for that report, just so we can have that certification wrapped up to include.
And what's that certification? I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, so it's basically, it makes it makes it a lot easier and efficient to measure your company-wide carbon emissions. So they have a tool called the B tool. It's a brand estimator tool. So at a high level, they basically look at how the company is spending money and where. And then you have an opportunity to use that tool to plug in raw, real data and refine those estimates. And they have kind of back-end LCAs that they use to measure. But I've been working with them for about a year. We actually used their tool last year, but didn't certify. We'll be doing that this year. And then as part of that certification, which is super exciting, is anybody that pursues that certification has to set science-based reduction targets. They have to put together a reduction action plan. So that's all kind of wrapped up in that certification. So it'll be a super rigorous, but awesome opportunity for us in Q1 this year to put together some action plans.
Now, I know you're an ex-athlete and that you've got tremendous stamina, but you've taken on a lot as the mission manager. How many folks, relatively speaking, are working with or underneath you to execute all this tremendous and impressive and inspirational work?
Yeah, I mean, I see myself as a project manager. I let the experts do what they're good at. We have our amazing leaders in our fulfillment centers kind of leading the charge for zero waste. I let them, do their thing. Our merchandising team is amazing. As far as how many people, it's probably in the 15, 20 people. But the cool thing about Thrive is everybody's mission aligned. Everybody wants to contribute. It's never hard for me to kind of go to a stakeholder, tell them what I need, and them to be super pumped about helping us.
It's cool when the culture is democratized, the mission is democratized, because there's no convincing. You're just really communicating that.
100%, making my life a lot easier.
What did you pick up? I mean, obviously you're beyond knowledgeable, and you yourself are a tremendous expert. Just from our conversation here, what did you pick up at UCLA that's going to serve you well in the years ahead at Thrive?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think, it was very communicated, like how dire a need it is for companies to, not just set these long-term 2040, 2050 targets. It's setting short-term targets, taking action, not just kind of it being all words. And, I think, like I said, we're late to the game. Like people, we need to, we see a lot of words, there's not a lot of action. So the importance around taking action now, I think just this program solidified the fact that, this is an urgent crisis. And, everybody needs to get moving, especially companies.
Kristin, when you look for inspiration yourself, in terms of what other brands are doing in sustainability, in ESG, in circular economy behaviors, where do you look?
I mean, the gold star is, everyone knows this, Patagonia.
It is.
Yvonne is a legend, also a huge fan of Rose Macario.
I had a chance to meet Rose a couple of years back. She's wonderful. She's wonderful.
A rock star. I would love to have dinner with that woman one day.
Right.
But yeah, other brands, even our third-party brand partners, like they inspire me all the time, and our team. The Dr. Bronner's, Good Sam is another great one, kind of in the regenerative agriculture space. So many of our brand partners are kind of as passionate as we are about this. So
talk about that a little bit, because in most industries, and this is just my experience, but I'd love to hear your take on this, obviously, most industries are highly competitive in terms of it's a zero-sum game. But when it comes to, as you say, we're late to the game. This is about making the world a better place together. How fraternity-like is the brands that you work with, the brands that you're connected to, in terms of trading best practices, relationships, connections, to help move the ball forward for Thrive, and realizing that when the ball moves forward with Thrive, everybody, the planet moves forward together, and the world is a better and greener place.
Yeah. So when we're onboarding a brand, that's a big part of our process. When we're bringing a brand on board, is making sure that they are aligned with our mission. They do have some sustainability practices in place. One thing that we are exploring this year is we're putting together a plastic working group. We just started a quarterly meeting with all of our brand partners just to kind of talk about where we're at as a company, any mission kind of highlights, or whatever we have coming up next. But the next goal for us this year is to put together this working group and be able to have like a collaborative experience with our brand partners and be able to share ideas. And, we see a lot more power in the group of us as opposed to, trying to take this stuff on by ourselves. So really, really excited to start that next quarter. But other than that, that's kind of how we've been engaging our brand partners so far around sustainability.
Talk about the inherent, the world isn't perfect, people aren't perfect, brands aren't perfect. So now a hot new plant-based product hits the market, and Thrive wants to carry it and get it to its 1.2 million members. But as you're onboarding them, you realize these folks are not aligned the way you're set up and situated. How do you balance the interests on commercial ventures versus social mission, manager mission, environmental mission, and in the position you sit at? How easy is that? How often does that happen? And how have you walked that line before?
I mean, I don't have a ton of visibility into that. We let our product innovators and our catalog managers manage those relationships. But I think, I know how stringent our standards are, especially around quality. And we always, all of our food products are non-GMO. So we do have we ask a lot of questions to these vendors. Some of them have even said, no one's really ever asked us this before, or no one's asked about this ingredient before. So that kind of gives you some insight into how many questions we do ask.
Wow.
Right. And we're hyper curated, so we don't need to bring in every single brand. So we can we have some leverage there.
What are you, out of all the great work that you're doing, which is just simply incredible, and it's honestly, for me at my age, it makes me feel so hopeful that your generation, the future is in your hands, and we're going to have a better future than we've had in a past in terms of environment. So that's just incredible what you've been doing. But what would you say if you had to pick out one thing that makes you most proud of your tenure at Thrive Market? What would be that one thing since you began at the company?
I have to say, becoming the largest online grocer to achieve that B Corp certification. It took us about a year to submit that, and some back and forth, but such a huge achievement across the entire company. Just having that validation that we are meeting those highest standards for both social and environmental performance. That's got to be my most proud moment to date.
That's great. Any teasers you want to give for 2023 before we say goodbye for today?
Any teasers? I mean, we're just consistently bringing on brand new products, Thrive Market own brand products. We're exploring, upcycling, just trying to really stay on top of the trends. And it's going to be an exciting year for us.
And even if people don't want to buy your great products, out of the 500,000 great curated products that you have, they could just join, because there's part of that money's going to go to other good things, right? So joining already forwards the greater mission of making the world a better place.
Well, we would hope they would join in order. Yeah, we would love as many people in the community. We would love as many people as possible to join us. Got it.
Well, I'm sure Thrive is going to continue to thrive in the months and years ahead, especially in 2023 and beyond. And Kristen, you're just incredible for our listeners and our viewers. Please go to Thrive Market, sign up. It's $60 a year to get everything delivered right to your home. That's such a great service. People, Kristen, running the show over there. You're in good hands. And Kristen, again, thank you for your time today. You're not only inspirational, but you also thank you for your service in making the world just a better and more sustainable place.
Thanks, John. That was fun. Appreciate it.
This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Engage. Engage is a digital booking platform revolutionizing the talent booking industry. With thousands of athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and business leaders, Engage is the go-to spot for booking talent, for speeches, custom experiences, live streams, and much more. For more information on Engage, or to book talent today, visit letsengage.com. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com.